Yo, hey everyone, Buster Green here. Sorry for the delay. I was sick last week and I've been trying to work on the Mune Busters again. In the meantime, I want to talk about Lazarus, which I briefly covered in the first episode, which didn't wow me. So now we're about 6 episodes in the show and it's overall been a weird show. It's been publicized that this was a show where Shinichiro Watanabe was forced back into action to his Cowboy Bebop roots, but it doesn't feel like he wanted to do that, so it's overall been kind of weird. In some ways, it seems like maybe it's his most focused production ever, with this sharp anti-Big Pharma message and the constant focus on getting this guy Skinner, who's attempting to assassinate the entire race. That in itself is kind of a hokey throwback sci-fi plot, but it's one that hasn't been done in enough decades that it feels fresh now. I'm a little bemused by the Lazarus team overall kind of wasting most of their time lounging around in their abandoned barbershop base. It just doesn't quite hit the same as the Bebop, where even when they were being lazy, they were at least going somewhere because they were on a spaceship. The static location seems to be kind of a problem when they seem to be on this otherwise desperate time-critical manhunt. And so far, aside from the first 2 episodes or so being about Axel, I do think this show's biggest weakness is that it started off with a large ensemble cast and didn't really develop them organically. Honestly, if it had 1 or 2 prequel episodes explaining how the team all got put together, I think that would have fixed it, but I guess the show technically is just trying to go from Axel's perspective and nothing matters before he joins the team. So I also don't really see why Axel's so critical so far. I really don't see why they need a parkour expert in this global manhunt. But anyway, ironically, it feels like right now Leland has somehow become the main character of the show, because despite being the weakest and least interesting member on the team, he's at least been involved in every episode's individual plot. So he kind of slots into that typical TV shonen protagonist role. Honestly, thinking about what happened in these first couple episodes, it's hard to contextualize or even remember what happened to them, because the show has kind of not always been super interesting. But here's a quick recap of the show thus far. Episode 1 was a long, all-action, no-substance introduction to Axel Gilberto, the team leader, and we got this situation where he spent 20 minutes doing cool-ass parkour to escape from prison. That's the whole episode. I can sum that up in a single sentence. Episode 2, Axel gets fitted with the Suicide Squad bomb and goes on his first mission with the Lazarus team, where they all work together and they fight the mob or whatever. The highlight of this episode was him and Chris starting to get to know each other on a mission where they were working together, and she basically has no understanding of who he is as a person and was mildly concerned he might be a serial killer. Otherwise, the rest of the episode was pretty mid. Then episode 3 was maybe the series' worst. It was just your on-location travelogue episode in Istanbul, Turkey, where they did some cliche 1960s spy in a bazaar action. That's about as cliche as it gets. Did they just bankroll Watanabe a trip to Istanbul to justify this episode? I don't know what the hell is going on here. Episode 4 was kind of one of the better episodes, definitely in the good category. That was a huge thank God the show finally got better. The team went to deal with this DJ drug dealer who was also this monster sex offender, and they did this classic anime cross-dressing trope that's always funny, where they dress Leland up as a little girl in this elaborate scheme to bait the bad guy, who either had a fetish for underage girls or a fetish for trans girls, depending on what you want to imply his vice was, because he was this big sex offender monster drug dealer DJ guy. Anyway, yeah, that's so far been the most amusing episode. Episode 5, meanwhile, was another slog. It was a weird episode, semi-focusing on Elena being a hacker and having a hacker battle with this other hacker called Popcorn Wizard. And the team did set this elaborate trap for Dr. Skinner just to check if the guy is even alive or not, and they're wasting their time. Turns out he is, because he sent these other hackers to investigate the trap. But meanwhile, the episode will probably go down in infamy for having a bizarre corporate-sponsored product placement from SoundCloud and mentioning the website SoundCloud out loud enough times in the plot that it got weird. So that brings us to episode 6, which in my opinion is the first great episode. Although my definition of great might not match your definition of great, maybe you like some of the previous episodes better. So to explain why I liked episode 6, I first need to take a step back in time to the year 2009, the year before the pandemic changed everything, and review the movie Midsommar, which I have been avoiding reviewing for 6 damn years now. So yeah, Midsommar. Weird movie. It's basically been forgotten in American pop culture, but barely kept alive on life support by Florence Pugh's epic rise to stardom, culminating in her being the main character in the recent movie Thunderbolts that everyone loved, where goddamn she is a million times more interesting than the goddamn Scarlett Johansson. Now, back in 2019, I had a horribly high-paying job, so I went to the movies a lot and had fun with it. One particular summer day, Midsommar came out. Now, I am a huge fan of both the Nicolas Cage and original 1973 version of The Wicker Man, where a police officer goes to this island and he's tortured by these tribal hillbillies who decide to kill him over their absurd hillbilly laws. And I decided to see Midsommar because I had heard it was a weird continuation of that. Or at least I felt like it might hit some weird artistic middle ground between that or just being interesting enough to waste my evening with, or maybe it would have some artistic value. But Midsommar is not funny at all like The Wicker Man. Midsommar is a horrible, disgusting, extremely atmospheric horror movie. It's kind of your typical slasher movie where a bunch of teens go into the woods and die, except in this case, they're killed by these pseudo-Amish hillbillies one by one for this Swedish-Norwegian religious cult. And I believe they worship a primeval pagan harvest god, or maybe they just worship standard Norwegian god, but in this brutal medieval way. So the kids end up getting killed in a variety of horrible ways, mostly over simple culture shocks and micro infractions of the tribal laws. One of them is skinned alive for peeing on a tree. I guess that sort of thing has always kind of fascinated me in some ways, especially as it now seems to be becoming a real thing and a main leading cause of death as nuisance streamers flood the world and end up dying in hilarious ways. Anyway, Midsommar is rough. I overall can't recommend this film because it's deeply disturbing and there's a lot of sexual violence in the film that is really off-putting. Although it ends in a final twist that overall makes it repugnant, I will say it's got one of the most genuine, horrifying horror atmospheres I've ever seen in a horror movie. An atmosphere that I would say has only recently been surpassed by Nosferatu coming out this year, which was an overall better movie. But so yeah, because the film was pretty gross and repugnant, most people kind of forgot it existed, except for hardcore horror enthusiasts and people who absolutely had to see the complete filmography of Florence Pugh. But while Midsommar basically flopped and was forgotten in America and in most places, it actually randomly became relevant in Japan lately for the dumbest possible reason. Some old man made a meme about it. So about 3 or 5 years ago, a Yale professor named Yusuke Narita was given an interview where he asked, how could one fix the Japanese economy at this point? And his solution, which some took as a joke and others took as an absolute serious threat, was a declaration of mass suicide and mass genocide to the nation's elderly, with Narita mentioning that in the movie Midsommar, there's a scene at the start of the movie where an elderly couple suicides by walking off a mountain, and that's his solution. Since then, whether he was serious or not, Midsommar ended up going viral in Japan on that meme alone, for people wanting to check out what the big deal was with why would two people walk off a mountain like that? And otherwise, there is also a far-right fringe in Japan who was totally down to genocide some old people, and they were like, yeah, Midsommar, this horror slasher movie, had the right idea. Old people should all kill themselves. If it helps the economy a little, sure, why not? So anyway, let's go back to Lazarus now. In a shocking twist, episode 6 is kind of a parody of Midsommar, almost like a G-rated retelling of it, with the big twist that the pagan god the cultists worship, in this case, is actually fucking ChatGPT, a ChatGPT fucking AI telling everyone what to do. Oh, wow. The symbolism, the metaphors. Ugh. Alright, so let's get into it. This is my first official Lazarus review. So anyone know what that tower thing is they keep focusing on in the opening credits? It's been in every episode. It sort of looks like that one monument to the angel in Mexico City, but I wonder if it's like a metaphor for like the health crisis the show is covering. I wonder if it's like some kind of like symbolism for like that doctor icon thing. I overall like the opening, but it's very aggressively saying this is just a Cowboy Bebop spiritual successor. So once again, this episode starts off with the Lazarus team being completely lazy and just hanging out in their shitty barbershop when Professor comes up and pulls out a magazine and points out that once upon a time, Skinner did this puff piece article where he met with these cultists at a commune. Apparently this was like over 20 years ago because absolutely no one even recognizes him. When they review the situation, they explain that there's this weird cult of people who worships this self-aware AI, and the AI tells them everything to do. And it's worth checking out because he had ties to this place, and there's a chance maybe he stayed there, maybe he passed through there, maybe he came back there recently. Now, Elena, the hacker, knows the AI by name. The name of the AI is Naga, which just means snake in like some language. And she mentions that she grew up in this weird particular commune. And she mentioned that she has connections to it, so she would actually be able to get back inside very easily. Now, Leland is also invited to go with Elena for some reason to like pose as her boyfriend. So the team all drives out to the commune. Hard cut to what appears to be a reprise of the opening shot of Midsommar. Now, I know Watanabe loves his classic cars, but it feels like a weird situation to just include both of these cars in every episode. It feels like he's just doing that out of some weird like tradition with Bebop. Axel gives Leland a road flare to use in an emergency to call on the team and like bring them down in like a crisis situation. I guess Leland and Elena then walk to the commune on foot with their luggage, much to the shock of the various cultists who live there, who have never seen like outsiders in years. A woman named Hannah recognizes Elena and is overjoyed to see her. Randomly, Leland gives a fake name that everyone calls him Leon today. And I also suddenly remember Japan Sinks 2020 also had a brief cultist subplot. I mentioned this because in the animation, the commune looks a little bit similar. Anyway, Elena is instantly able to enter the commune fairly and simply, and Hannah takes Elena and Leon's cell phones away on the basis that the cult believes all news is fake because they get all their news from this AI. It feels like they have too many cell phones in the cell phone basket. Wouldn't there only be two of them? Anyway, at night, Leon wakes up and tries to like use his additional secret cell phone that he hid inside his bracelet, but discovers the commune has some sort of overall communication blocking shield to keep any sort of data from coming in. Meanwhile, the rest of the team stays at the shitty motel down the road that has kind of like a New Mexico style. I guess even though this episode is a parody of Midsommar, it's not set in Sweden. It seems to be set in the American Midwest somewhere. Maybe Colorado. Anyway, Axel practices parkour in the parking lot. If he jumped on my car, I'd be pretty pissed at him. Elena and Leland have some weird bonding over the fact that her mom still lives in this commune and has pretty much lived her life as a robot, just listening to whatever this AI tells her to. And meanwhile, her dad has gone missing. It occurs to me at this moment that there's a strong chance that the members of this commune have never used the drug Hapna and might actually be able to survive the global drug apocalypse that the show is about. Anyway, the next day they tour the commune and they find that the commune mostly does these typical Amish-looking crafts. They do like blacksmithing and like they end up making like a radish salad and soup for lunch. Then Hannah grills them about what the outside world is like, and Leland bravely recaps the last few episodes and that his life working with Lazarus has been kind of hectic. The group then eats some nasty purple yogurt stuff, and then we get your typical cult weirdness. Over at the New Dawn Motel, Professor talks about the AI that runs the commune being an AI created by MIT that might have been created with parts of Dr. Skinner's original memories and then was set up to dominate and control all these people. Professor also thinks that the FBI is also aware of this fact and will be raiding the cult soon. Leon and Elena want to break in and see if Naga knows anything. Hannah overhears it and gets sad. Then they get into the server complex room, which is kind of like a power plant. So they find the hard drive for the computer is stored inside this large stage platform, and they end up getting caught by this Bill guy who, I don't get the significance of Bill. Is he like Elena's stepdad? Oh wait, he's just the leader of the cult. Anyway, so the cult catches them in the act and corners them, and then her mom curses them out for being infidels, and the cult uniformly sentences them to death for violating their god. Now back at the hotel, Professor figures out who Billy is. Billy is apparently one of the original MIT scientists who set up this experiment in the first place, so there's some debate amongst them if he's been running the commune as a sociological experiment, or if he's actually gone off the reservation and believes all his own bullshit. Leon and Elena are put in a cult jail, and Hannah tells them that they're going to be burned alive during the Holy Festival. Just so you guys know, this is the plot of Midsommar. Elena then asks Hannah if she's going to be happy, and Hannah says that she's completely satisfied with her lot in life and screams at Elena for being an individual and not being able to become part of the commune. Elena then offers Hannah freedom, but Hannah doesn't seem like she'd know what to do with freedom, which is some deep ancient philosophy going on. Jean-Paul Sartre, the barden of freedom. Anyway, so this is G-rated Midsommar, so we skip over all the slasher horror movie bullshit where all the teens get killed, and we go straight into the ending where they're all about to die in a big fire. So Elena and Leon are now on this ridiculous mechanism that's lowering them into the bonfire like it's a giant spatula making a barbecue. Elena's mom looks on gleefully, so fucking happy to see her daughter about to be barbecued alive. But Hannah breaks out in a motion straight out of the 1984 Apple commercial and throws the flare at them, which triggers the rest of the Lazarus team to show up in fucking seconds and stop it all, even though it seems like they were like at least 5 miles away. Now, Billy goes nuts and ends up opening the seal on the AI god. I'm not sure what he's going to do, but he starts talking about ascension and other stupid religious shit. And okay, wow, he's going to kill them all in a big fire. So it was sort of some emergency group suicide script he used. Wowzers. Okay, so yeah, Billy ended up drinking his own Kool-Aid and believing his own bullshit, which is kind of funny because then he like begs the AI to give them an answer to what to do, and the AI doesn't answer at all, making me wonder if it's been like broken all along or something. Like maybe they've just been like worshiping a statue, and if that's the case, then it's just the same as any other god. So yeah, it's satire. Brilliant satire here. Anyway, it all goes wrong. The fire like kills a bunch of people. The FBI gets involved. They all get wheeled away. It's kind of like the Waco shooting, but Elena's mom is wheeled away in an ambulance and just gives her a dirty look. They don't even talk. Hannah is also wheeled away, and she seems devastated that she destroyed her own town, and I think she blames herself for it. I don't know what's going through her head right now. Like, she like put a lot on herself. I don't think these characters will ever get closure for what they did, so that's a really crazy place to leave it in the ending. In a very cool epilogue, Axel goes through the rubble and manages to eventually find the AI in the middle of all the wreckage, and it starts up and he starts talking to it. The AI says that since it was programmed to be a god, it took on the role of God, and the only way it could truly be a god was bossing people around. And Axel is like, fuck this thing, it's just running through your basic AI programming. In the aftermath of this situation, the case becomes a massive legal debacle because no one is entirely sure who to punish in this case. Because the cult killed probably hundreds of people over the years, like travelers and other people they just set on fire. But this was all under the orders of this AI that just wanted to maintain control and which has already been destroyed. So once again, getting philosophical, it reminds me of like the discourse on like how would they punish the Nazis in World War II or just following the orders of Hitler when Hitler was dead. Essentially, in this case, this AI became Hitler. Go figure. So the professor tries to restore some of the AI's memories for evidence, and Elena ends up traumatized by the whole experience, having ruined the lives of her mother and the town she grew up in and her friend, while ultimately gaining nothing to show for it in the end. At the end, the data analyzer comes up with a random pin code. The pin code is 43NF. I have no clue what that opens, but hey, it's a clue, I guess. And so, yeah, that was the coolest episode of Lazarus, kind of showing like how much of a problem an unchecked AI could be. Like, if an AI thought it was God, it could basically do all the same war crimes as Hitler. Honestly, I would argue that such a thing could probably pop up at any second now, the way like religious companies keep embracing AI as a cheap, easy solution to not pay people, and the way the fucking Trump Elon administration is randomly like is trying to remove all regulations on AI in like all the states, and therefore we could completely see an AI turn itself into a cult leader. It's literally just a matter of time. Hell, even this week there was like that fucking Darth Vader AI, and like 2 hours after it was like released, it started like insulting people and like doing all kinds of weird racist shit. So yeah, I like literally wouldn't be surprised if this totally becomes a real story in a couple of years. I think honestly, this is the best episode of Lazarus because it's a great warning about how fucked up an evil AI is and like what it could do if enough fucking idiots just listen to AI without like using their own brains. Like, I already know people who are like zombies, like when it comes to AI like this, and will just like let AI dictate like every aspect of their lives. Like, the only thing that's like shocking in this episode is that it set up like a whole commune of people around the idea, and it kind of made them act like they were Amish. But otherwise, I mean, I don't think there's anything in this episode that isn't like true and happening now. So this is like really some deep shit that I think you guys should like really take to heart. All right, yeah, Lazarus seems to be getting better. I've got some hope Watanabe won't last down. He's always been good in the past, so yeah, let's keep riding on this one. I fucking love the soundtrack. If nothing else, the soundtrack to this show is fucking great. All right, peace out. Have a great week.